All right, Jabos, say good morning. Good morning. Our shir this morning is dedicated by Ira and Miriam Grossman in commemoration of Ira's father's yahrzeit, the first yahrzeit. I'm sorry. Seventh yahrzeit, I'm sorry. Seventh yahrzeit of Ira's father, Melech ben Yisrael. We hope that on the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshama will have an aliyah. Thank you to Stan. A special thank you to Saeed for coordinating all of the sponsorships. We'll say also just two programming announcements. Number one, there's going to be a Meretz Hashem Shul Simchas Beis HaShoeva tonight, beginning at 7:30. It's going to be beautiful music and singing and Divrei Torah. Today is also Rabbi Nachman's yahrzeit. Second day of Chol Hamoed, Chai Elul. So Meretz Hashem, we're going to get them. I'm sorry? Yes, of course. It'll also be selling ice cream, so we'll double dip in Meretz Hashem. So we'll say we're going to learn some of the Rebbe's Torah tonight, and there's going to be some very beautiful singing, good refreshments. That's 7:30 p.m. tonight. Also, we'll say on Hoshana Rabbah morning, we're going to be having, in addition to all of the regularly scheduled minyanim, there'll be a special, what we're calling a his Orus minyan, in Meretz Hashem, that is going to sing more and take advantage of the power of Hoshana Rabbah, and especially the fact that Hoshana Rabbah is falling out on a Sunday. It's a very unique opportunity to take a very special day, which the Svarim bring down as the last day, really, when really all of the Svarim are nechtavin and nechtamin, an opportunity for a little bit last tshuva that'll begin in Meretz Hashem at 9:10 a.m. And Meretz Hashem Maishi is going to be leading us in the Tfilos, and there is going to be a beautiful Su'uda afterwards, sponsored by the Muberger Mishpacha, that's going to take place here in this. Davening will be here, and Meretz Hashem the Su'uda in the Sukkah afterwards. That's going to be 9:10 a.m. on Sunday morning. There'll be a regular. I believe the first minyan is starting at 6:30 a.m. There'll be a regular 9 o'clock minyan as well, but it'll be beautiful. 9 o'clock is in main shul. 9 o'clock is in main. I'll send it. This was just really Rosh Prakim here. Not to get into the weeds. I'm going to send out all the information on the WhatsApp, but I figured I have an attentive audience, so I'll take advantage. All right, let's begin. Today's daf, Mem Ches 48. A beautiful daf ahead of us today. 48. We are picking up on Mem Zayin Amud Beis 47b, second to last line on the daf. Tan Rabbanan. Shachat Shnei Kevasim al Arba Chalos. We'll say still, who ever thought that there was so much to speak about when it came to the karbanos of Shavuos? Little did we know that there is a lot to speak about. So it says the Gemara, Tanarabana Shachat Shnei Kevasim al Arba Chalos. Remember again, under normal circumstances, the halacha is that when it comes to the kivsi atzeres, you shecht 2 lambs, 2 kvasim, with 2 loaves. 2 loaves. In this case, what am I doing? I'm shechting 2 lambs with 4 loaves. So of course the shaila is, what do I do, or what is the status of the extra 2 loaves? What's the halacha? Moshech shtayn mehen umanifan. So I go ahead and I remove 2 of them, umanifan, and I do tenufan 2 of them. Which means I will say 2 of the 4 are used for the sacrificial process of Shavuos, top of Memches, and the other 2 are redeemed. Now we'll discuss exactly what that means. In other words, the other 2, remember, because only 2 are necessary for the carbon of Shavuos, 2 are used for the carbon of Shavuos, the other 2 are redeemed. So the rabbi said this for Rav Chisda, Hadulo Kirebi. Now, boss, remember again, yesterday we spoke about the fundamental machlokes, at which point in time does carbonic identity become concretized. So the Gemara says this apparently does not follow the view of Rebbe. Why not? Di'ik Rebbe, Kevan the Amar Shchita Mekatsha. Rebbe is one of us who says that it's the Shchita of the carbon that ultimately concretizes sacrificial identity, which means that it's the time of the Shchita, that then would solidify the carbonic identity of the loaves as well. So watch this. Di'i Rebbe, Kevan the Shchita Mekatsha. Because ultimately, again, if this would reflect the view of Rebbe holds that Shchita concretizes and solidifies carbonic identity. Deparik lehu hecha. Where exactly are you redeeming these additional 2 loaves? If you want to say you're redeeming them outside of the Beis HaMikdash, that won't work. Kevan dichsiv lifnei Hashem if salahu biyotze. We'll say the problem is if you're redeeming them outside, then the moment you take them outside, what happens? They become pasul, the psul of yotze. Why? Because remember again, according to Rebbe, there's a quasi-sanctification that's devolved upon all of these loaves in the time of shechita. If you take it out, it becomes pasul yotze. Igavoy, and if you want to say ultimately you're redeeming it inside, that's not going to work either. Hama'ayil chulin la'azara. We'll say the problem then is if you redeem it inside, then it turns out that what? If you're going to deconsecrate two of the loaves inside the Beis HaMikdash, then it turns out that you're bringing chulin, unconsecrated items, into the azara, into the courtyard of the Beis HaMikdash, to which the Gemara says, Amru Rav Chisda li olam ki Rebbe. No, the truth is it could work like Rebbe as well, and I'll tell you how. Uparakaluhu gavoy. In reality, you're going ahead and redeeming the extra loaves inside the Beis HaMikdash. Why isn't it chulin la'azara? Very simple. The chulin memela kahavir. I will say, there's a prohibition to bring chulin into the azara. In this case, am I bringing chulin into the azara? No. What I did is I brought in items that were ultimately all going to be used for sacrificial purposes. It turns out only 2 out of the 4 are necessary. So therefore 2 of the 4 are being deconsecrated inside. Chulin memela kahavir means it becomes chulin inside the azara, but that's not the prohibition. The prohibition is to bring chulin into the azara. So in this case, when I'm deconsecrating 2 of the loaves, ultimately, again, I don't run into the problem of chulin ba'azara. Amali Ravina Ravashi, v'hatanya kishu podon ein podin ela b'chutz. 1 second. So Ravina says to Ravashi, but we learned in another brayso that in this case where you have 4 loaves and you only need 2, that you should redeem it outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Ha vadai Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon he. Both say this would certainly reflect the Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon. Remember, what does Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon hold? When is carbonic identity solidified and concretized? When? Zrika. So Rabbi says, so again, if you hold that it's Zrika, that is the defining aspect of the carbon, then in this case where what? Where you have 2 sheep, which is the right amount of sheep, 4 loaves, which means I have 2 extra loaves. So I have a very simple chap. What am I going to do? Take 2 loaves, even if it's after shechita, take 2 loaves out. Because it was like, and remember, the identity of the carbon has not been solidified before zrika. To which the Gemara says, so that, and the Brisa seems to indicate you should do that. The Brisa says, redeem it or podeh it outside. That would seem to reflect the view of Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon. Because it was like, according to Rabbi, di'i Rabbi ha'if sulubiyotze. Because according to Rebbe, once you shecht the carbon, once you shecht the carbonos in this case, so to take any of the loaves outside would invalidate them with the psul of yotze. Amar li Ravacha b'rei Rav Ravashi lema tehevet tiyuf the Rabbi Yochanan meha di'itmar meha. So we'll say, so says the Gemara. So it says Ravacha b'rei Rav Ravashi. So we should refute the position of Rabbi Yochanan from the following: di'itmar toda sheshachta al shmonim chalos. So we'll say, now watch this. So now switching gears for just a moment. Now we're asking a kasha on the case of kivse atzeres, of the Shavuos offering, from the case of toda. In this case of toda, I shechted the carbon toda on 80 loaves. Then I both say that is twice as many loaves as you need. Carbon toda comes with 40 loaves. In this case over here, you shechted it with 80 loaves. Suppose I say, now the shaila is, what's the status of the loaves? So, watch this. Chizkiya Amar, Kidshu Arboim, Mitok Shmonim. Chizkiya says, okay, 40 out of the 80 loaves have become consecrated, and the other 40 are unnecessary and therefore unconsecrated. Yet Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Lo Kidshu Arboim, Mitok Shmonim. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, nothing's consecrated. Now look at Rashi for just a moment. The Divrei HaMaschal Rashi is Lo Kidshu La Klal. It's about 3/4 of the way down in the short lines in Rashi. Lo Kidshu La Klal. So remember, Rabbi Yochanan's position of both sides seems to be actually quite intuitive, which is, if you bring the wrong carbon, then essentially, so no consecration, no level of consecration devolves upon the items you're bringing. So if you're bringing a carbon toda with 80 loaves, then lemaisa, again, that's not a carbon toda. Doesn't mean the animal segment may be correct, but your loaf segment is flawed. If your loaf segment is flawed, then what? Then the kedusha doesn't devolve upon the loaves at all. Look at Rashi, lo kitchu klal. So the kasher abosai for our purposes is what? V'hachanami amai kitchu shtei chal sitoch arba. Now, remember, so Rabbi Yochanan's position is that if you bring, now this, we're talking bread over here. So if you bring the wrong number of loaves, essentially the Kedusha does not devolve upon the loaf segment. If that's the case, then the same halacha should apply by what? By the kivsei atzeres. So we'll say in a case where you brought 2 sheep, which is the right number of sheep, and 4 loaves. Remember again, kivsei atzeres, we'll say, is made up, what's the carbon? 2 sheep, 2 loaves. You brought 2 sheep and 4 loaves. What should be the halacha on Rabbi Yochanan? What should be the halacha? None of the loaves become consecrated. Yet Rabbi say, if you notice again, that's not the discussion. In the Brisa we discussed, everyone seems to agree that what? If you bring 2 sheep and 4 loaves, what happens? What happens? 2 of the loaves are consecrated, and the only shaila is what? How you deconsecrate the other 2 loaves. Are you deconsecrating them inside the Beis HaMikdash, outside the Beis HaMikdash? But everyone seems to agree that 2 of the 4 are consecrated and 2 are not. How does that stem with Rabbi Yochanan? Rabbi Yochanan's shita seems to be that when you bring the wrong number of loaves, then guess what? The loaf part totally doesn't work. Whatever you're going to do to work it out, you work it out. But there's no such thing as consecrating part if you can't consecrate the whole. To which the Gemara says, "V'lav mi itmar alo." But did we not say regarding that case by Toda, Amar Rabbi Zera, Hakol modim heicha da Amar likadshu arba mitoch shmonim dikadsha. So we'll say there's a very important qualifier in that case. Rabbi Zera says that in that case of Toda, if you were to make the statement, let 40 of the 80 loaves become consecrated, then it would work. So if you were to make a statement, let 40 of the 80 loaves become consecrated, it would work ultimately again by carbon Toda. So to Rabbi say, you'd have to say over here that at least according to Rabbi Yochanan, the case by the kivsei atzeres is where he's bringing 4 loaves, but he's making an explicit statement that I only want to consecrate 2 of the 4. So then you could get into the mechanics ultimately again of how you're deconsecrating 2 out of the 4. So we'll say, so essentially what comes out over here is as follows. What the Gemara is suggesting is, originally the way we read this case is that halacha l'maisa, I'm bringing 2 kivsei atzeres or kivsei atzeres accompanied by 4 loaves. So okay, two will be kivsei atzeres, the other 2 will be deconsecrated. The shaila just is, am I deconsecrating them inside the Beis HaMikdash, outside the Beis HaMikdash? Now that the Gemara introduces the view of Rabbi Yochanan seems to say if you bring too many loaves for any accompaniment, karban, so again the consecration doesn't devolve upon the loaves, unless of course what you explicitly say that you only have in mind to consecrate some segment of the loaf population, right? So again, in the carbon Toda, I'm bringing 80 loaves, but I have in mind to only consecrate 40 loaves. Okay, then we can get into the mechanics, what you're consecrating it, how you're consecrating, how you're deconsecrating the other part. So you'd have to say that according to Rabbi Yochanan, the same thing would apply in the kivsei atzeres case. He's bringing 2 sheep, he's bringing 4 loaves, and he makes an explicit statement that I only have in mind to consecrate 2 out of the 4 loaves. Okay, then we could discuss which loaves, we could discuss how to deconsecrate the remaining loaves, but at least the carbonic consecration will devolve upon at least 2 of those loaves. Tani Rabbi Chanina, Tirsa, Kamed Rabbi Yochanan. So what's Rabbi Chanina Tirsa? Rashi points out Tirsa is Shem Makom, the name of a place. Rabbi Chanina from Tirsa taught before Rabbi Yochanan. Shachat arba kvas ma beis chalos. We'll say this is the reverse case. In this case, what am I doing over here? 4 sheep, 2 loaves. So right number of loaves, wrong number of sheep. 4 sheep, 2 loaves. So what's the halacha Rabosai? So Moshe Shnayin mehem. So we'll say you go ahead and you take 2 of them, 2 of the sheep. The zarak daman shalo lishman. Rabosai, this is actually amazing. So what do? So you go ahead and you shech them, and you shech them shalo lishman. Shalom Lishman. Now what does it mean Shalom Lishman? You're going to shech them for L'shem Shlamim. Shalom Lishman means I'm not shechting them L'shem Kivsei Atzeres. 2 of them I'm going to take them, I'm going to shech them L'shem Shlamim. Okay. Now here's what's interesting. Now the order here is very important. This only works if you shech the first 2 L'shem Shlamim, then you could shech the remaining 2 for Kivsei Atzeres. Shem'iyah ta'omer kach. Because if you do not follow this order, Rashi says, Lizrok es shalo lishma tchila, ella es lishmo tchila. If you were to offer up the kivsei atzeres first, then we have a problem. So the Gemara says, She'im iyat omer kach, hifsarata es ha'achronim. You will end up ultimately again causing the last two to be lost. What does that mean? Look at Rashi. Hifsarata es ha'achronim, kida amar le'el. We'll say, based on what we said in yesterday's daf, ein lecha davar shenira lishma, v'nitche mi lishman, kigon hani. So we'll say, listen to this. Remember we said this in yesterday's daf. There's no such thing as something that was kasher lishma, then became kasher shelo lishma, that could be offered up shelo lishma. In other words, once you are fit for a particular purpose and you become invalidated for that particular purpose, there is no such thing then that you could be offered up for a different purpose. So in this case of Yerabasa, you have 4 animals brought as kivsei atzeres. So the halacha is as follows. The halacha is that if you offer up the first 2 as shlamim, then that works perfectly fine, right? Then you could offer up the remaining 2 ultimately again for shlamim. But halacha l'maaseh, say if you offer up the first 2 for kivsei atzeres at a point where all of them were fit for kivsei atzeres, you offer up 2 as kivsei atzeres, which means you set aside the remaining 2 as being unfit for kivsei atzeres. You can't now go ahead and offer them up for shlam. So we'll say it's a very logical idea. Once you're fit for something, for a designated purpose, and you're then rendered unfit for that purpose, you can't then be offered up for something else. So now we'll say, again, this is really actually amazing. So I have 4 sheep that were brought for kivsei atzeres. What's the problem? What's the problem? I only need 2. By the time I only need 2, I can only bring 2. So now I don't want to lose out. Obviously, I have to use all these animals now. So the Gemara gives very simple eitzah. Offer up the first 2 for shlamim, and then the second 2 for kivsei atzeres. Because if you reverse the order and you offer up the first 2 for kivsei atzeres, then the remaining 2 become disqualified for anything. Why? Because the remaining 2 at some point in time were fit for kivsei atzeres, then were set aside as not usable for kivsei atzeres. You can't then go ahead and now use them for shlamim. Good. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan, v'chi omer lo the Moshe Shneimei v'zark v'dam shlo l'shmon. Shima ta omer kach hifsadat ha'sachronim. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, v'chi omer lo the adam amod v'chatei b'shel shetiska. So also listen to this. So Rabbi Yochanan said, do we say to a person, get up and do something wrong, literally get up and sin, so that you can benefit from it? Now what does that mean? Look at Rashi. Amod chatei, it's the last 2 short lines of Rashi. Shelo lishman chotehu de asl shanas b'zvachim. Now understand, see, the concept of taking an animal which was technically designated as a particular karban, and then what? Repurposing and redesignating it is prohibited, is technically prohibited. So what we just suggested is not glat, right? What we just suggested is not exactly wonderful. It's the best we can do in the given circumstances, but the Gemara is finding, Rabbi Yochanan's finding it very problematic. So what you're telling me, Rabbi say, is, I bring 4 kivsei atzeres. I bring 4 sheep. I get to the Beis HaMikdash, they say shkayach, but you only need 2. So now what am I going to do? I'm going to take 2 of them and actively go ahead and offer them up as shlamim. I will say, when I actively offer them up as shlamim, in a carbonic sense, in the carbonic cosmic sense, what am I doing, Rabbi say? I'm taking 2 animals that were really fit for kivsei atzeres. So what am I doing? I'm actively repurposing them. I will say, that's kind of usher. It's kind of usher. In other words, again, the Gemara is saying, okay, do it because less breira, there's no other choice. Because if I go ahead and I offer up 2 as kivsei atzeres first, then the other 2 I'm really left with no options. So what I'm doing over here is I'm doing something that really is usher. I'm taking 2 animals which were designated as kivsei atzeres. I'm actively repurposing them as shlamim so that I can offer up the remaining 2 as kivsei atzeres. So Rabbi Yochanan says, I don't understand. V'chi omer lo la'adam amod v'chatei b'shel shetiskeh. Do we say to a person, get up and actively do something wrong so that you could benefit from your wrongdoing, which Rabbi says is effectively what's happening over here, right? Chazal are telling me, get up, offer up the first 2 kivasim as shlamim, which is wrong, in order that what? That you could offer up the remaining 2 as kivsei atzeres. So Rabbi say, understand, the Gemara is now asking, Yochanan is challenging do we actually tell people to do this? Do we actually tell people to do something which is halachically wrong? You're going ahead and you're offering up Karbono Shelo Lishman. Again, we're actively telling you to do this, that you have the ability to utilize all four of the animals. Do we say this? So the Gemara says, we learned about so listen to this. Every chatos shenes aruba every oler. Now listen to this case. I have limbs of a chatos that got mixed up with the limbs of an ola. Now here's the issue. Right? So the limbs of the ola go on the mizbeach. The limbs of the chatos do not. So Rabbi says, now here's the issue. So what do I do? What do I do with the mixture now, the limb mixture? Rabbi Eliezer Omer Yitnu Lamala, Baroa Ani Es Basar Chatas Lamala Kilu Eitim. Shmuel says, yeah, put the whole thing on the mizbeach. What about the limbs of the chatas mixed in there? You'll view that as firewood. It's just firewood. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. Chum say no. Tubar tsurasan. No, you can't put anything on the mizbeach. Rather, both say tubar tsurasan literally means let its appearance change. So both say is the way, which means ultimately what? Which means let it sit overnight. It becomes possible with what psul both say? What psul? Lina. Let it become possible lina. V'yetzla beis hasreifa. And you'll go ahead and you'll burn it all the next day. So both say you see the chum say you can't put it on the mizbeach. Let it sit overnight. You'll burn it the next day. Amai. But I don't say chum. Why do you say that? Lema amod v'chatei b'shoshet tiska. So both say. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. Based on what we just said, what did we say? What did he say? Both say that you could effectively do something wrong if there's a greater benefit that's served. Both you know what it's like. It's like lahav. It's like an avera lishma. Now don't try this at home, right? But I'm saying there is a concept of avera lishma. Right? There's a concept that sometimes you have to do something that's wrong to serve some type of greater purpose. So we have like dramatic examples of this. Esther Hamalka, Ya'al Akeni, right? We have examples of this, of Avera Lishma. So the Gemara is suggesting over here that what you suggested by Kivsiat Seres is effectively an Avera Lishma, actively repurposed to Karbanos. So that's what? So that you could offer up the Kvasim. So why don't you say over here also, when all the limbs get mixed in together, offer it up, because by offering up the limbs of the chatas, you will effectively what? See, both say, here's the chat. When the limbs of the chatas get mixed in together with the limbs of the ola, you have two options. What are the two options? Option number one is like the Chacham say, let it sit overnight, psul of lina, and burn it all in the Beis HaShreif outside the Beis HaMikdash tomorrow, which effectively means you end up burning nothing on the mizbeach. Option number two, Rabbi says what? Put it all on the mizbeach. Now the advantage of putting it all on the mizbeach is what? Right? Okay, I'm doing something wrong with the limbs of the chatos, but at least I'm burning the limbs of the ola. So what? So based on what you told me to do by the kivseat seres, so I could say amod v'chatei b'shil shetiska. Sometimes you do something a little wrong, so that at least there's some type of positive benefit. So put the whole limb mixture on the mizbeach, and as much as I'm transgressing by the limbs of the chatos, I'm at least going ahead and benefiting by the limbs of the ola. And I will say, now what I do want to point out is, understand, you see, before this Gemara, we would have said, of course, you never do something like that. Why? Because there's another halachic principle. What's the other halachic principle? Sheviat ha'adif, that sometimes inaction is preferable to actively transgressing. The problem, Rabbosai, is that halacha l'maisa, the Gemara just told us to do otherwise. By the Kifsiat Saras, the Gemara is introducing a new paradigm where the Chazal are telling me to actively do something wrong in an effort to produce some type of net positive benefit. If that's the case, put all the limbs on the mizbeach so that I can benefit. To which the Gemara says, so the Gemara says, listen to this. So the Gemara says, you're right. To tell you that you should transgress and do something wrong, a little wrong, a shtick wrong, like a shtick wrong, right? Like a shtick avera. So to tell you should do something a little bit wrong by a chatas, so that you'll benefit the chatas, we would say. But amod v'chatei bechatos, b'shilshatiske ba'ola lo amina. So we'll say it's actually very interesting. Even when Chazal tell you, and we'll say this, by the way, there's a lot of hashkafa in this also. So when Chazal tell you amod v'chatei b'shilshatiske, that's when what? We'll tell you to sin a little bit in item A, so that you benefit in item A. But to tell you to sin a little bit by item A, to benefit item B, that we won't do. So I will say, so to tell you to burn the limbs of a chatos, which is aser, so that you'll benefit in an olah, that we won't do. If you told me to burn the limbs of a chatos so that I can benefit from the chatos, okay. But to tell me to go ahead and sin a little bit with A so that I can benefit from B, that I won't do. Which I will say, now that going back to Kivsei Atzeres, that makes sense. I have 4 kvasim. So to tell me to go ahead and do something a little bit wrong with 2 of them so that I can benefit from the rest of the group, okay, that I hear, that makes sense. So I will say, but to go ahead and tell me to go ahead and burn the limbs of the chata so I can benefit from the limbs of the olah, that doesn't make sense. The Gemara says, 1 second, is that true? Ubechada milsa mi amar. So I will say, is that true now? You're telling me that within one thing, so we go ahead and we say, see, if it's all in one matter, we'll let you sin a little bit so that you can benefit from the other items. Is that true? So the Gemara says, Vahatanya, here we go. Kivsei Atzeres sheshachtan shalol lishman. We'll say back to Kivsei Atzeres. You have a group of Kivsei Atzeres sheshachtan shalol lishman, which also means I shechted it not for the right purpose. O sheshachtan bein lifnei zmanon bein la'achar zmanon. What about saying? Some people, they're always early or they're always late, right? So mamish, I brought my karbanos a little bit too early. I brought them a little bit too late. Right? So we'll say the idea of the common denominator is my kivsei atzeres are not good. What's talacha? I will say hadam yizrak. So you should go ahead. You do zrika on the dam. So Rashi says hadam yizarik. The first white line, and Rashi shalol lishman. So let's remember again. Kivsei atzeres essentially brought at the wrong time, or shechted shalol lishman become what? Become shlamim. So throw the dam shalol v'shman, right? Again, shalol v'shman as shlamim. Hadam yizrak v'habasar yochal, and the meat can be eaten. Now the meat is eaten just as a stam a shlamim. Now watch this, Abosai. V'im haisa Shabbos, but if it turns out that it was Shabbos, right? Then what happens? We'll go to Rashi for just a moment. V'im haisa Shabbos, Rashi says, ashalol v'shman kai v'atzeres v'Shabbos hi. Lo yizrok techivon de itchimi karban sibor sulo dachi Shabbos. So we'll say now again. Remember, if it was Shavuos on Shabbos, then and it was brought as kivsei atzeres, I would bring it on Shabbos. The issue over here is that now it was brought shalol lishman. If it's shalol lishman, then what? Then it's no longer a karban sibor. If it's no longer a karban sibor, then you shouldn't do the zrika on Shabbos. So what happens? V'ma'isa Shabbos lo yizrok v'im zarak. But if you did end up doing the zrika on Shabbos, then what? Hortza lahaktir imurin la'erev. Then Abosa, you are permitted to go ahead. Then the zrika works to allow you to burn the leftover parts of the karban on Matzei Shabbos. You obviously can't do it on Shabbos itself, but you can burn it on Matzei Shabbos. Va'amai, I don't understand. Lema amod chatei b'shosha tiskeh. Abosa, we should say that if you ended up doing this on Shabbos, you remember again, the Gemara says if you ended up offering up the kivsei atzeres shalol lishman on Shabbos, what's talacha? You shouldn't do zrika, but if you did zrika, it works, and you could burn the remaining parts of the karban on Matzei Shabbos. I don't understand. If I ended up accidentally shechting it on Shabbos, what should be the halacha? I should be able to do zrika lechatchila. Why? Because after all, that would be a manifestation of amod chatei b'Shabbos. I'm sorry. Amod chatei b'shosha tiskeh. Because also it's telling me to actively do something wrong, i.e. the zrika on Shabbos, in order that I could benefit. What's the benefit? The benefit will be that I could burn the leftover parts of the karban after Shabbos. To which the Gemara says no. Amod chatei b'Shabbos kedei shetiskeh b'Shabbos aminon. I will say to tell you to do something a little bit wrong on Shabbos, so that you can benefit on Shabbos, we would say Amod chatei b'Shabbos kedei shetiskeh b'chol lo aminon. I will say tell you to do something a little bit wrong on Shabbos, i.e. this week, so that you can benefit during the week, right? Matzei Shabbos, burning the parts, burning the emurim, that we don't say. So we'll say, so what you begin to see is as follows, that this concept of Amod v'chatei b'shilsha tiskeh, get up and do something a little bit wrong so that you can benefit, only works when what? When A, the benefit is immediate, and B, the benefit is within the same carbonic context. But to tell you to do something a little bit wrong, in A, to benefit B, that we won't do. To tell you to do something a little bit wrong now, so that you can benefit Motzei Shabbos, that we won't do. Ubetarti mili lo amar. So let's listen to it. Is that true? That we don't say chatei amod chatei b'shil shetiske. That we only say that amod chatei in A, shetiske be'A, but we don't say amod chatei in A, shetiske be'B. Is that true? The Gemara says, after all, v'hatanan. Here we'll say it's actually a very interesting case. Chavish al truma shenishbara begat al yona. Let's listen to this case. I have a vat or a barrel. I should say not a vat. A barrel of truma wine. Let's call it wine. And I will say just that barrel is arranged above, okay, and that barrel breaks. So right below that, ubetachtona chulin tamein. Let's say below that barrel of truma is a pool of chulin tamein. I will say, is there anything wrong with chulin tamein? Impure chulin. Anything wrong with it? No. Or if you're a Kohen, it can mess you up a little bit in your ability to go and eat other pure items. But if I'm a regular Yisrael, I could eat chulin tamei. It's not a problem with that. The problem is if my truma wine flows into the chulin tamein, then what? Then I will say we're done on every front, because the problem then is that becomes truma tameya. Once truma wine gets mixed in with chulin tamein, it becomes truma tameya. Once it's truma tameya, then what? There is no remedy for that mixture. There's nothing to do with it. It just has to be. There's nothing to do with it. There's nothing to do with it. So I'll say, so watch this case. In this case, I have a barrel of truma wine that broke, and it's going to flow into the chulin tamein. It's going to be fun. So we'll say, remember again, if that happens, there's a double loss. What's the double loss? I lose the truma, and now what? The chulin also becomes now unusable as well. Because remember, I want to be clear. Chulin tamein sounds bad, but if you are regular Yisrael, it's fine, right? Meaning you could. I'm sorry. It's delicious, right? It's fantastic, right? And by the way, your Kohanic friends can't touch it. It doesn't even you get it all for yourself. I mean, they can't touch it. Also, but again, I want chulin tamein sounds like you're saying it's prohibited. It's not prohibited. The problem is once the truma gets mixed into it, we're done. So now watch this case. So chavish al truma shenishbra begata al yona ubetachtona chulin tamein. So what do I do? Samod Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yoshua, shimicholin lahatzil and a rivius betara yatzil. So we'll say everyone agrees. That's what. That halacha l'maisa, if you could save a revius of the truma, you should try to save the revius of the truma, even though what? Even though you're going to end up losing out on all of your chulin. Ve'im lav. But I will say, if you can't go, I look at Rashi for just a moment. Mod Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yeshua, Afal Gav, last Rashi on the daf, Afal Gav, Dechayish Rabbi Yeshua, Lekaman Behefsid Chulin, Moduhu, Shim Yochol Lachser Achar Klitar, Lekabal Ba'afilu Revius Yatzil, Va'afal Pisha Benkach Benkach Tipol HaTruma L'Soch HaChulin, V'yilech HaKol Yibud, Lefisha Truma Tmei Ein Lo Takana. So also listen to this. So everyone agrees, if there's the possibility of saving some amount of Truma, even a revius, run and get a tar kli, save that revius of truma, and at least you've saved the revius of truma. Even though, what have you lost? Everything else. Okay. However, ve'im lav. We'll say, what happens if you can't? In other words, if you can't. Now, why can't I? We'll say, let's say for argument's sake, the only thing I have in my possession is a kli that is tameh. So therefore, I don't have the ability to save. I could catch truma as it's coming down, but when that truma is coming down, it falls into that kli, it becomes tummy as well. So what do? Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Amadeus, Tered v'titam v'altitam biyad. So Rabbi Eliezer says, you know what? If your only option is to catch the truma in a tummy kli, then you just have to let gravity take its course and let everything become tummy. Why, Rabbi Osai? Because the act of catching the truma in a tamei kli is effectively what? Actively rendering the truma tamei. That you can't do. Right? Even though you're going to save the chulin. Right? So we'll say that you can't do. So therefore, again, if all I have in my possession is a kli, and I will say, let's say it's a big kli, so I can mamish catch all of the wine, all of the truma in that. So remember again, the truma is gone regardless. But what Rabbi Eliezer is saying is, if the choice is between the truma being rendered unfit, memela, through gravity, versus me actively catching it in a tamei kli, let gravity do its work, and I should not be metami at biyad. Rabbi Yeshua says no. Af yitamena biyad. Wow. Rabbi Yeshua says no. What? Right? So look at Rashi. Rashi says af yitamena biyad. Alma chatei betruma kadesha tiska bechulin. Rabbi say, what's Rabbi Yeshua's logic? This is actually a fascinating case. What's Rabbi Yeshua's logic? What's Rabbi Yeshua's logic? Rabbi Yeshua is going to say, listen, the truma is gone regardless. Right? The truma is gone regardless. Because what's capital say? If I do nothing, then what? Then what? It goes into the chulin tmein. And therefore what? It becomes tameh. So say, so at least let me save the chulin. Again, so in Rabbi Yeshua's world, am I doing something wrong by catching the truma in the tamei kli? Am I doing something wrong? Yes, but it's a little wrong that has a greater benefit, right? The little wrong is, I guess you could say I'm actively being metame the truma by catching it in a kli. I'm buying the kli tameh. I'm the one who's bringing the kli tameh. I'm catching the truma. So yes, I'm actively doing something wrong. But what? At least I'm saving the chulin. So we'll say, what is this a case of? This is amod v'chatei v'shil shetiske. But interestingly enough, this is amod v'chatei with one item, kedei shetiske with what? Something else. So you see over here that apparently, at least according to Rabbi Yeshua, you can say amod v'chatei be'e v'shil shetiske be'bi. I really should say aleph and beis, I guess. So the Gemara says like this. To which the Gemara says, no. Shiny Hassan, that's not a good example, and I'll tell you why. Dilatuma ka'azla. We'll say, and you were thinking this entire time, this is not really a good example. Why? Because I will say, this truma is gone regardless, right? The truma is done for, right? The truma is done for regardless. So because the truma is done for regardless, what Rabbi Yeshua is saying is, instead of losing two items, if you can lose one item, that's better. But this is not really considered a case of amod v'chatei. The act of catching the truma in a tamei kli is not really called actively defiling truma. Why? Because that truma is pretty much gone regardless. Rav Yitzchak Tani. So let's listen to this. So Rav Yitzchak came along. And also I just want to point out this discussion of amod v'chatei b'shil shetiske. If you think about it, it's really like quite a riveting discussion. In other words, are you allowed to commit one smaller infraction in order to go ahead and create some type of net positive benefit? Really interesting. Ki asar Rabbi Yitzchak Tani. So Rabbi Yitzchak came along. He said as follows: Tani, kiv siatzar sheshachtan shalom kimitzvasan psulin. So let's listen to this. When Rabbi Yitzchak came along, he actually taught that by kiv siatzares, if they are shechted shelo kimitzvasan. Rabbi says shelo kimitzvasan means shelo lishman. Shelo lishman. That's what Rashi says there. Shelo lishman. Then what's the halacha? Psulin. Rabbi said they are pasul. Utu uber tsurasan. You let them sit overnight. Rabbi says, so you remember, tu uber tsurasan means we let their form change, which is a nice way of saying we let them sit out overnight. They become pasul alts lina. V'yotz lebeis asreifa. And the next day we take them outside of the base of to be burned. Amram Nachman. So let's listen to this. So what's interesting over here is this is a machlokes. Right? See over here, we just said before that what? We just said before that kiv siatzeres sheshachtan shelo kimitzvasan. So what do you do with them? You essentially offer it up as a shlamim. Apparently, Rabbi Yitzchak says no. Kiv siatzeres that are offered up shelo l'shon. Rabbi say what happens? Pasul, mamish pasul. In other words, you let it sit overnight and you burn. By the way, understand, Beis HaSreifa is where? Beis HaSreifa is outside of the Beis HaMikdash. That's where you take karbanos that cannot go up on the Mizbeach. Amar Rab Nachman, Mar di makish lehu lechatos tani psulin. So apparently the Gemara is suggesting that everything depends on what you compare kif seat seres to. So apparently, again, apparently Rabbi Yochanan, or Rabbi Yitzchak, compared kif seat seres to chatos. Therefore, he said what? Psulin. Look at Rashi. Tani psulin ki chatos. Disnan kolas v'acham shenizbechu shel l'shmon ksherin chutz mi pesach v'chatos. Uleidach lishna medami lohu lechatas sha'avra shnasa the psul. So let's listen to this. So apparently, what we're going to get into now is a discussion as to what kif seat seres are compared to. So apparently, Rabbi Yitzchak compares it to a chatos, just as a chatos. This goes back to our first Mishnah Mesechas Zvachim, right? That a chatos ultimately that is offered up shalal l'shma is pasul. If you compare kivsei atzeres to a chatos, then if it's offered up shalosh shmon, it'll be pasul. Tana debei Levi. So Tana debei Levi the gomer shami chova mishami nedava. But in debei Levi, who learned out that what? That we learned out shami chova from shami nedava. Tani ksherim. Ultimately, going to say so there is another school of thought that learns out Shamei Chova, which I will say will be Kivsei Atzeres fall in the category of Shamei Chova, will be learned out from Shamei Nedava. Therefore, they will say if it's offered up Shalol Lishma, we'll say what's Talacha? It's still kosher. Now again, remember when we say kosher, kosher means it's fit to be offered. Lav dafka that it satisfies the obligation, but it's fit to be offered. Look at Rashi, Shamei Chova Shamei Nedava, the Ksherin Shalol Lishman, the Bechlal Kol Hazvachim Hein. So let's go on. The Tani Levi, because Levi taught Ushar Shami Nazir Sheshachtan Shalo Kimitzvasan. If you have Shami Nazir, we're switching gears a little bit. Shami Nazir that were shechted Shalo Kimitzvasan, which obviously means they were shechted, just not in accordance with the particular details of their halachas. Ksherin v'lo alu lebailin. Ultimately, again, they're kosher, meaning they could be offered up on the mizbeach, but they do not satisfy the obligation of the owner. L'shem chova v'ne'achalin liyom v'layla. They could be eaten for a day and a night. Ve'in tu'unin lo lechem v'lo zroa. But ultimately, again, they do not require the normal accompaniments of the carbon of a nazir, which ultimately, again, are the loaves of bread as well as the zera. So both say what you begin to see over here is a fundamental machlokes as to to what do we compare shalmei chova. Are Shalmei Chova ultimately again compared to Shalmei Nedama, or are they compared to Chatos? The Nafkamina Rabosai is what? And we're going to see what the root of this is. The Nafkamina Rabosai is what? If the Shalmei Chova are offered up Shalol Lishman. If they're offered up Shalol Lishman, if you compare it to Shalmei Nedava, then what? Kosher, but doesn't satisfy the owner's obligation. If it's compared to Chatos, then if it's offered Shalol Lishma, pasul. And then what will you do with it? Apparently, let it sit overnight. Tu b'tzurasan v'yetzula beis hasreifa. Meisi, the Gemara is the kasha. Asham ben shana v'hevi ben shtayim. I will say, if you have an asham that was supposed to be brought from an animal that was 1 year old, and instead you brought a 2-year-old animal, or ben shtayim v'hevi ben shana, or you had an asham that was supposed to be brought from a 2-year-old animal, and you brought it from a 1-year-old animal. What's the halacha? Psulin. We'll say the carbon is puzzle. V'tu'uber tzurasan, and you have to let it sit overnight. Lina v'yetzula beis hasrif, and you take it out the next morning to be burned. Aval olas nazir v'olas yoledes v'olas mitzora. But about in the case of the olav nazir, olav yoledes, olav mitzora, sheyu b'nei shtei shanim that were supposed to be brought that were brought ultimately again from a 2-year-old animal. V'shachtan, even though it should have been brought from a 1-year-old animal. V'shachtan, and you shechted it. Ksherin. It's still kosher. Klal lo shadar. We'll say, here we go. What's the klal? Here we go. Kol hakosher ba'olas nedava, kosher ba'olas chova. We'll say, whatever technically speaking would have been kosher as an olas nedava will also be fit as an olas chova. The chala pasel bechatos, anything that would be possible, say brought as a chatos, pasel ba'asham is also pasel if what? If brought as an asham. Chutz Mishalo Lishmo, with one exception, I will say, which is if it is brought Shalo Lishmo. We'll say what that means is Shalo Lishmo will be puzzled by a chatos, but is still kosher by a shlamim. Tana, so the Gemara says, Tana debei Levi. This Tana will say obviously reflects the view of debei Levi. Tashma, the Tani Levi, Asham Nazir, Asham Mitzora. Shechtan Shalo Lishman. But say if you have an asham of a nazir and an asham mitzora, they are shechted Shalo Lishman ksherim. It works. That's exactly what we just said before. Remember, both say even though again normally chatos and asham have the same type of halachos, the one dramatic difference between them is a carbon that is offered up Shalo Lishma. By a chatos that was offered up Shalo Lishma will be pasul. An asham that was offered up Shalo Lishma will be kosher. So the Gemara says, so the Tani Levi, asham nazir v'asham mitzora, sheshachtan Shalo Lishman ksherin. They will be kosher, even if it's up Shalo Lishma. However, for the alu lebailim l'shum chova. We'll say the one caveat is what? It doesn't satisfy the owner's obligation. The Gemara says, shachtan m'chosr zman bebailim. But I will say if the carbon was shechted, ultimately, m'chosr zman bebailim will say means that right carbon, right type of carbon, right type of person, but too early for the person in question. Or Rabbi say, for example, it was supposed to be a 1-year-old animal, but you were a 2-year-old animal. What's the halacha b'shachtan? Psulin. Ultimately, Rabbi say mechusr zman will be possible. Vim isa, but if what you just said before is true, ligmar mishlamim. Why don't we learn that from shlamim? And Rabbi say by shlamim the halacha is that what? That even if the animal was brought wrong age, it could still work. It's just what? Meaning it's a kosher carbon. It just does not satisfy the owner's obligation. To which the Gemara says no. The way it works is shlamim mishlamim gamar, asham mishlamim lo gamar. Both say one type of shlamim can be learned out from another type of shlamim, but asham cannot be learned out from shlamim. V'i gamar shlamim mishlamim ligmar nami asham me asham. Well, okay. So now what you're going to tell me is you can learn out. If you can learn out shlamim, one case of shlamim from another case of shlamim, so then we should learn out ultimately again one case of asham from another case of asham. If that's the case, asham nazir va'asham mitzora me asham gzelos va'asham meilos. But say if that's the case, then I should learn out what? That I should learn out asham nazir and asham mitzora from asham gzelos and asham meilos. Oh, asham gzelos va'asham meilos. Me asham nazir va'asham mitzora. So we'll say so again, but yet we know the halachos by these different asham offerings are different. I'll tell you why. I want to say about Ashi. Here we go. Danin davar shalo behechshero mi davar shalo behechshero ve'in danin davar shalo behechshero mi davar shebehechshero. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says danin davar shalo behechshero kigon shalmi nedava shabo shalo behechsheron kigon shalo lishman. O katan behevi gadol ve'in danin davar shelo bechsher kigon asham nazir ben shtei shanim mi davar shebechsheran me asham gzelos ben shtei shanim shar shevka. So we'll say, so in other words, what the Gemara is saying is as follows: we can learn out the halachos of something that is brought shelo bechsheran with irregularities from other cases of irregularities, but you can't learn out a case of carbonic irregularities from a totally normative carbon. That's the general halacha. So what we're doing over here is, it is true that you can learn out carbonic details from within the same carbonic family, but only from other like carbonos. So you can learn out irregularities from irregularities and normative halachos from normative halachos, but you can't learn out irregularities from normative halachos or vice versa. Velo, is that true? V'hatanya minayin liyotze shim alolo yered. Say, watch this. So now what you're telling me is, you can't learn out in a regular case, or you can't learn out really in irregulars. You can't learn out the halachos of an invalid carbon from what? From what? From the halachos of a kosher carbon. Which you will say, okay, I hear that. Meaning I can learn out the halachos, or I can learn out details of one irregularity from another case of irregularities within the same carbonic family. So I can learn out, for example, asham irregularities from an asham gzelos, from the irregularities from the asham irregularities by an asham nasir. I could do that. I can't learn out the irregularities of asham from a kosher case of asham. So Gemara says, is that true? After all, about the following case, minayin. Here we go. Liyotze. We're supposed to actually had this before. Minayin liyotze shim alalo yered. We'll say, how do I know about the following case? If you have a carbon, we'll say, which was taken outside of the Beis Hamikdash, that is called the psul of Yotze. I have a carbon that was taken outside of the Beis Hamikdash, and then what? And then what? And then brought back in and inadvertently placed on the Mizbeach. We'll say, what's the halacha with such a carbon? What's the halacha with such a carbon? You leave it. You don't have to take it down. So Ross, again, I want to be clear. The halacha is, once a carbon is taken outside of the Beis Hamikdash, it can no longer be brought back in, and certainly can't be put on the Mizbeach. And the case in question over here is, the carbon was taken out, inadvertently brought back in, and inadvertently placed on the Mizbeach. And yet, what's the halacha? The halacha is, once it's placed on the Mizbeach, leave it alone. Leave it alone. So watch this. Minayin liyotze shim alalo yered. How do I know about what? About a carbon once it was taken out? That halacha l'maisa. That halacha l'maisa. That halacha l'maisa. You can go ahead and leave it on the mizbeach. So the Gemara says, I'll tell you how. Shahara yotze kasher bebama. Because the say ultimately again, because there's the concept that yotze is kasher, which means also we'll say that there's a concept of a carbon that is even outside being offered up on the Mizbeach. What's the example of a carbon offered outside, or that's brought outside being offered up on the Mizbeach? Bama. Both say Bama is a case of a Mizbeach outside of the Beis HaMikdash, and the animal is fit to be offered up even if it was outside. So we'll say, see what's happening over here? Because there's a concept of Bama, which says that an animal, a carbon, even outside of the Beis HaMikdash is kosher. So we learn out from there that even though it was taken outside, if it was brought back in and put on the Mizbeach, it's still going to be okay. I'll say, what is this an example of? This is an example of learning something that is invalid from something that is valid. Offering up a carbon on a bama at the time when bamas are permitted is a permitted practice. What I'm learning out is, since a carbon that's outside under certain circumstances is permitted, what do I learn from there? That even if a carbon from the Beis HaMikdash was taken outside, subsequently brought back in, placed on the Mizbeach, that what? That I could leave it there. So you just say you can't do that. You just said that you can't learn something invalid from something that is valid. Yet that's exactly what we're doing over here. To which the Gemara says, top of Menachos and Aleph, Tana azos Toras ha'ola riba samachle. Well, to which the Gemara says, the truth is, we're not really learning it out from there. We actually learn out that concept from the pasuk of Zos Toras Ha'ola. We'll say Zos Toras Ha'ola teaches me what? Look at Rashi. Tab Rashi and Tesam Aleph. So the Gemara says Tana Azos Toras Ha'ola Kai Torah Achas L'Chol Olim Shim Alu Lo Yerdu B'Meseches Nida Perek Yotei Dofen. So also listen to this. Vaha Dinakat Bama Asmachta V'Simna Ba'alma. The both say, to which the Gemara says, you're right. We do not learn out the halacha of Yotzei, that once a carbon is taken outside of the Beis HaMikdash and accidentally brought back in and put on the Mizbeach, that you leave it. You don't have to take it off. You let it put on the Mizbeach. We actually don't learn that out from the comparison to Bama. Where do we learn that out from? Zos Toras Ha'ola. What does Zos Toras Ha'ola teach us? Once it's Ola ala Mizbeach, then what? Then what? It doesn't come down. That's where the halacha from. The fact that we compare it to Bama, that's a side limud, not the primary limud. We learn out from the pasuk. Therefore, I will say what? We're actually not learning out something invalid from something valid, and therefore the Gemara's principle is still intact. We'll stop over here, pick up and test and tomorrow. Go